start recording for the ones who are not here. Share. Hi, Sarah. How you doing? Okay, guys. Now let's begin the class. Los grandes descubrimientos, the great discoveries, the great voyage of discovery. Oh my God. Mira ahora. Area, just arrive. Area, where are you? Julieta, area. Okay, let me open this PowerPoint. It doesn't want to open. Oh, here it is. Okay, here it is. Okay, let's begin then. The main idea. A European had the desire, an opportunity to explore. They wanted to know, to live new experience, new frontiers. And also they wanted to discover new spices because there was already a route through Italy and Venice. And they were collecting different spices from Asia. So people from other side of the Europe, they wanted to get new and taste new spices. So they tried to make all this voyage. Okay, so an interesting discovery and exploration grew in Europe in the 1400s. Improvements in navigation, navigational tools, cartography, and shipbuildings allow European sailors to go further than they had ever before. Why did people set out to explore the world in the 15th century? First, they wanted resources, querían recursos, such as in ancient spices, las especias en Asia. Italy and Egypt controlled the trade routes to Asia, charging very high the price of spices. In fact, pepper costs more than gold. Can you imagine that? European Christians wanted to convert more people to the religion to counteract the spread of Islam in Europe, Africa, and Asia also. The reason. So over here are the causes why they start doing all these voyages. The first was European became more curious about the world. Second, people were looking for adventure. Number three, Europeans improved navigational tools, cartography, and shipbuildings. Number four, Europeans wanted new resource, and European Christians wanted to convert more people to Christianity. So those were the reasons why they began doing all these voyages. The desire to learn more about the world grew, new invention and knowledge spread rapidly. More and more European countries became interested in finding trade routes and settling new lands. Now over here comes along the Portuguese and Spanish explorer. A man who never went to any sea voyage was responsible for much of Portugal's success on the seas, known as the Prince Henry the Navigator. Imagínense, Henry the Navigator, él nunca se fue en ninguna de estas expediciones, sin embargo, él es muy importante al inicio de estos eventos, dice. He built an observatory and navigation school. Por eso que fue importante. Él los preparaba a los navegantes to teach sailors how to find their way. So that's why he is important in this kind of events. In 1488, a ship led by Bartolome Diaz succeeded in sailing around the south tip of Africa. The crew, tired and afraid of raging seas, forced Diaz to turn back. However, they had found a way around Africa. Así que Vasco da Gama, otro portugués, sailed around the Africa and landed on the west coast of India. Llegaron a la India y consiguieron los países. In 1498, a sea route to Asia had been found. Este es el señor Vasco da Gama y este es el señor Henry the Navigator que nunca navegó. Okay, these are the routes of the Portuguese voyage. This one goes for over here and goes around the Africa, and they reach over here in the east and the west of India. Now there were another one, for instance, this guy Vasco da Gama. He goes over here, this area, Sierra Leone, and then go across the ocean, and then he arrived over here in Cape San Tome, and this area of Brazil, and they colonized Brazil. And remember, that's why they speak Portuguese, because of the guys over here in Portugal, that's why. And he did several other voyage. Okay. Now over here, there's a chart where it shows you all the different expeditions from different part of different countries. These are from Portugal, the green ones, the red one from Spain, the purple France voyage, and England, the yellow. Okay, let's move on. Now, a new world. An Italian sailor thought he could reach Asia by sailing west across Atlantic. The sailor Christopher Columbus told his idea to a Spanish monarch, Ferdinand and Isabella. He promised them great riches, new territory, and Catholic convert, que eso es lo que también están buscando, convertir a muchos al catolicismo. It took Columbus several years to convince the king and queen, but Isabella eventually agreed to pay for his journey. Columbus never realized that he had found a new unknown to Europeans. He died still believing that he had reached Asia, pero nunca llegó a Asia. Okay, guys, now I have brought some. This chapter is very short chapter. So anyway, I want to make it more interesting by bringing some power videos that talk. For instance, this one talks about the Mr. Prince Enrique the Navigator. And let's watch it. Then I have another one about the that tomorrow we're going to talk about Sir Francis Drake, and also a battle that they live or they had during those days. Okay, now let's watch something about Mr. Henry the Navigator.
Prince Henry surrounded himself with scholars, map makers, astronomers, as well as navigators, amassing knowledge and intelligence, the 15th century version of R&D. Like a venture capitalist, he financed expeditions intended to push the boundaries of the known world for profit and to spread Christianity. Prince Henry died at Sagres in 1460, but by that time, Portuguese explorers had inched their way south along the coast of Africa as far as Sierra Leone. In 1488, Bartholomew Diaz made it around the Cape of Good Hope. 10 years later, Vasco da Gama reached India. Then, just 2 years after that, in 1500, Pedro Alvarez Cabral discovered Brazil, and on it went, each explorer armed with knowledge provided by the last. From Brazil to Japan, with everything in between. New technology was key, and this is what it looked like circa 1440. A ship with triangular sails. An ocean-going version of smaller fishing boats, the caravel revolutionized exploration. In a caravel, you weren't restricted to winds that just pushed you along from behind, as square riggers were. And the Portuguese had the best and most up-to-date navigational tools. For example, the mariner's astrolabe, which helped to plot location by measuring the altitude of the sun and stars. Portugal had the equivalent of today's proprietary computer software, accurate maps. Portugal monopolized world commerce, but only as long as it managed to keep its knowledge out of the hands of competitors. Ferdinand Magellan commanded the first expedition that made it around the world. He was Portuguese, sailing for the Spanish.
Okay. Another video that talks about this very famous, this one, very famous character at this time. By the way, do you know what's the difference between, what's the word? I forgot the word. Corsario and pirata. Anybody know what is the difference between corsario and pirata?
Nope.
Nobody knows. Okay. Today you're gonna learn something new then. Okay, pirata es como cualquier otro ladrón en el mar, por supuesto. Eso es un pirata. Y el corsario es el que va a robar en nombre, en aquel entonces, la reina Isabela I de Inglaterra nombró por lo menos al primer corsario que se conoce, que es Sir Francis Drake. Él fue el primer corsario. ¿Okay? So, esa es la diferencia entre el corsario y el pirata. Y el corsario simplemente iba a robarle las riquezas a los españoles que traían, ya sea del imperio azteca o del imperio incaico. Y el nombre de la reina. Y un pirata simplemente roba para su beneficio. Esa es la diferencia entre ellos dos. Muy bien. Let's watch this video about Mr. Sir.
Sir Francis Drake would be considered a troublesome, villainous pirate by the Spanish. But to the English, he would be a hero. Perhaps a morally flexible hero, but a hero nonetheless. Drake was born in 1540 and would go on to live on a ship with his family, thus beginning his fascination with sailing. At the prime age of 20, Drake would inherit his senior's trading ship through an apprenticeship, and this would facilitate the beginning of his naval expeditions. During the Tudor period, the population was growing, and the desire for adventure and discovery was becoming a well-sought-after dream. The Queen at the time, Queen Elizabeth I, understood that other countries such as Portugal were establishing profitable trade routes through the Mediterranean and along the coast of Africa. These countries were also capturing slaves and selling them for large returns. Essentially, Queen Elizabeth realized that she was missing out on the party and she wanted her slice of the cake. In 1563, Drake would make his first voyage to the Americas with his second cousin John Hawkins, where they would attack Portuguese towns and ships for loot. By 1568, Drake would contribute to the illicit trading of slaves in the Spanish colonies of the Caribbean. It would be around this time that Drake and Hawkins were attacked by Spanish warships. Both Drake and Hawkins were said to have survived the attack by diving overboard and swimming to safety. Their ships had been all but completely wiped out. Much of their fortune that had been acquired in the last 5 years was either destroyed or claimed back by the Spanish. It was because of this that Drake developed a deep-rooted hatred for the Spanish and for their king, Philip II. He would vow revenge against them at all costs. Although this venture was a colossal failure, it would gain Drake the attention of Queen Elizabeth I, who would enlist him as a privateer. This would grant Drake a license for which to plunder Spanish ships, and ultimately earn him his revenge, one attack at a time. Drake would become known as El Drake, meaning the dragon in Spanish. He would be loathed by the Spanish, and was so devastating to their supply routes that Philip II would put a £4 million bounty on his life. Drake's most celebrated venture would likely to be his capture of the silver train at Nombre de Dios in March 1573. His crew consisted of many French privateers and also a bevy of African slaves who had escaped the Spanish. Drake and his crew were able to obtain 20 tons of gold and silver, but would need to bury much of this treasure as there was too much for their party to carry. The remaining crew would haul the treasure 18 miles through jungle-covered mountains to where they had left their boats. Much to their dismay, however, the boats had been stolen. They would go on to bury the treasure on the beach and return with Drake's flagship vessel later to collect it. Before leaving, however, Drake would climb a tree in the central mountains of Panama and become the first Englishman to see the Pacific Ocean. Drake would make the proclamation that Englishmen would one day sail this very sea. Funnily enough, Drake would be the first to do so in his later circumnavigation of the globe. By August 1573, Drake returned to England, only to find that Queen Elizabeth and the government had signed a peace treaty with King Philip II. Queen Elizabeth would therefore not publicly celebrate Drake's endeavours, despite being commissioned by herself, as she wished to maintain peaceful relations with the Spanish. Though she didn't publicly celebrate Drake, she had no qualms about taking the plunder he had stolen from the Spanish. In 1577, Drake would be chosen by Queen Elizabeth to sail past South America and explore the coast which lay beyond. This would please Drake immensely, as not only would he be able to plunder ships along his journey, but he would also have the opportunity to prey on Spanish vessels. With his ship the Golden Hind, Drake would set sail once more. In 1578, Drake would set his sights on the Pacific Ocean once again, only this time it would be from the deck of his ship, as he had previously envisioned. Drake would set sail along the coast of South America, continuing his vendetta against the Spanish and looting their vessels. Drake claimed to go north, reaching a point that would be he was more than eager to comply with. In the following years, Drake was given 30 ships to attack a Spanish fleet that was meant to join the Spanish Armada. But Drake proved to be a menace once more, and he stormed a harbour known as Cadiz. He was able to destroy numerous vessels and thousands of supplies, which would have a ripple effect, delaying the Spanish Armada's formation by a whole year. It took Drake a mere 36 hours to accomplish this. Drake would go on to complete his last voyage in 1596, where he would fail to defeat Spanish vessels at San Juan, Puerto Rico. He would go on to catch what was known as the Bloody Flux, now more commonly known as dysentery. It's here that El Drake would die on board. His body was dressed in full armour before he was placed in a coffin and buried at sea near Panama. His body has never been found. As always guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And let me know in the comments what you thought about Drake. Was he a demonic villain that the Spanish said he was? Or was he more of a hero, bringing glory back to England? I know I've made up my mind. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next pirate. Believe me, he's a real hearty